Today, people demand answers instantly. A message left unread for a few hours creates suspicion. Silence feels uncomfortable. Everyone wants explanations, proof, and immediate truth. But in 1900 America, one man learned something that changed his entire life forever. Not every question should be answered immediately, because sometimes time reveals the truth better than words ever can. In the autumn of 1900, in the small river town of Hannibal, Missouri, a 35-year-old newspaper editor named Samuel Reed sat quietly inside his dimly lit office while rain tapped steadily against the windows. The room smelled of ink, paper, and burning oil from the lantern beside his desk. Stacks of newspapers covered nearly every surface, and the printing machines downstairs echoed faintly through the building. Samuel was respected throughout the town for one reason above all others. He was known as a man who always had answers. People came to him for advice about business disputes, political rumors, local scandals, and even personal conflicts. He listened carefully, spoke calmly, and rarely seemed uncertain about anything. In a town where information traveled slowly and gossip traveled fast, Samuel's words carried unusual weight. But there was one question in his life he could not answer, and the harder he tried to answer it, the worse things became. It began when a wealthy businessman named Edward Holloway arrived in Hannibal in late 1900. Edward purchased several properties near the river and quickly became involved in local business affairs. Some people admired his ambition, others distrusted him immediately. Rumors spread constantly. Some claimed he had earned his fortune honestly through railroad investments. Others whispered darker stories that he had ruined smaller businesses in other towns before disappearing and starting elsewhere. As editor of the local newspaper, Samuel found himself caught in the middle. People demanded answers. Who is this man, really? Can he be trusted? Why did he come here? Everywhere Samuel went, people asked the same questions. At first, Samuel tried to investigate carefully. He wrote letters to nearby towns, searched public records, and spoke to travelers who claimed to know Edward's past. But every answer led to more confusion. One person described Edward as generous and intelligent. Another called him manipulative and dangerous. The stories contradicted each other so completely that Samuel became obsessed with discovering the truth, because in his mind, uncertainty felt unacceptable. One cold evening, Samuel sat across from his closest friend, Walter Hayes, inside a quiet cafe near the train station. "You're chasing answers too quickly," Walter warned him. Samuel frowned. "People deserve the truth." "Yes," Walter replied calmly, "but sometimes truth takes time." Samuel disagreed. To him, silence felt irresponsible, so he continued searching. Over the following weeks, Samuel published several articles questioning Edward Holloway's business activities. Though he avoided direct accusations, the articles fueled suspicion throughout the town. Conversations grew tense. Some local merchants refused to work with Edward. Others defended him passionately. Division spread quickly, and Samuel unknowingly became the center of it. Then something unexpected happened. One morning in early 1901, a fire broke out near the river warehouses during a violent winter storm. Strong winds pushed flames dangerously close to nearby homes and businesses. Panic spread across Hannibal as people rushed through the streets trying to save what they could. In the chaos, one person took immediate control: Edward Holloway. Without hesitation, he organized workers, opened his private storage buildings for shelter, and used his own horses and wagons to transport water barrels through the freezing streets. For hours, he worked beside ordinary townspeople until the fire was finally contained. Samuel watched everything from a distance, and for the first time, doubt entered his own conclusions. The man he had suspected had just risked his life helping the town. But even then, Samuel wanted certainty. The next day, he confronted Edward directly inside his office. "People say many things about you," Samuel said carefully. "I want the truth." Edward looked at him silently for a moment before speaking. "And if I answer," he asked, "will people believe it?" Samuel hesitated, because deep down he knew the answer. Probably not. Edward walked slowly toward the window overlooking the snowy street below. "When I was younger," he said quietly, "I spent years trying to explain myself to everyone. Every rumor, every accusation, every misunderstanding." He paused. "And do you know what I learned?" Samuel remained silent. "People rarely accept answers before time is ready to show them." Those words stayed in Samuel's mind long after he left. Weeks passed, then months, and slowly, without dramatic revelations or public confessions, the truth began revealing itself naturally. Samuel noticed that Edward consistently treated workers fairly. He paid debts on time. He quietly donated money to struggling families during the harsh winter. He avoided unnecessary attention and rarely defended himself against rumors. Over time, the town itself began changing its opinion, not because Edward argued, not because Samuel exposed hidden secrets, but because actions repeated over time revealed more than explanations ever could. And Samuel realized something painful. In his desperation for immediate answers, he had nearly judged a man unfairly. One evening in late 1901, Samuel sat alone inside his newspaper office, staring at a blank page while rain once again touched the window softly. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to admit something uncomfortable. Not every question needs an immediate answer. Some truths cannot be forced. Some people cannot be understood in a single moment. And sometimes, silence is wiser than reaction. The following week, Samuel published an article unlike anything he had written before. It did not accuse anyone. It did not defend anyone. Instead, it spoke about patience, judgment, and the danger of reaching conclusions too quickly. The article ended with a simple sentence: "Time has a way of answering questions that emotion never can." People across Hannibal discussed those words for weeks, but for Samuel, the lesson became personal. Years later, he would often remember the mistake he almost made.
not because he lacked intelligence, but because he lacked patience. America in the early 1900s was changing rapidly. News spread faster than ever before through newspapers, railroads, and growing cities. Opinions formed quickly. Rumors traveled even faster. Yet even in that world, one quiet editor discovered something timeless. Not every accusation deserves an argument. Not every misunderstanding requires immediate defense. And not every question should be answered right away. Because sometimes the strongest response is patience. Today, we live in a world even faster than Samuel's. People rush to judge, react, argue, and demand explanations instantly. Silence is often mistaken for weakness or guilt. But more than a century ago, in a small Missouri river town, one man learned a truth that still matters today. Some answers are too early to understand. Some truths need time to reveal themselves. And sometimes, the best thing you can do is leave the answer to time itself.